But the worst was when several months later, since his divorce was taking a long time, he sent death threat letters to myself and my wife saying that he had hired a hitman to kill the two of us if his divorce wasn't finalized in 60 days. Good day, folks. This is We Ask Reddit, bringing you multiple answers to very specific questions. Curious to see how people answer these questions? Then subscribe to the channel. Being a lawyer can be very taxing. Client incompetence, the court hearings and whatnot. But these lawyers got more than what they bargained for. Set your bear traps, ready your tranquilizer darts, because today's question is, lawyers of Reddit, at what point when working for a defendant did you realize, my client is a monster? Well, if you're ready, let's get to answering. I had a client who was accused of domestic violence. Essentially, he threw his girlfriend out of a second-story window. Now, he's got a terrible history, but so do a lot of my clients, and his attitude is a little entitled. Also typical. But he also knows the deal and wants a plea deal. So I'm not really prepared when he absolutely refused the no jail offer from the state. Keep in mind, there were like 5 witnesses. Why? Because they wanted him to pay for her medical bills. Okay, an but whatever, not the worst. What did it was his counteroffer. I ain't paying that bitch's bills. Tell them I'll pay for the window. Prosecutor was not happy. Okay, wow there, mister. That's just... Why don't we toss you off from the second floor window and see how you like it? The first week I started at my current criminal defense firm, I was tasked with cataloging discovery from our client's phone. The phone had multiple, talking about 4,000 videos, photos, text exchanges with women under 16. Though not all of the girls' ages were confirmed, most were under the legal age of consent, and many were barely pubescent, naked and being prostituted over 1 year. He would lure these girls in exchange for drugs. Nothing felt totally bizarre until I came across one video where he was clearly forcing himself upon a literal child who was so high on benzodiazepines, not willingly but rather forced, and choking her in the process. When our firm confronted him, he said he was in love with her and that's why he did it. He would also take these girls to hotels and make them have sex with one another while he taped. But nothing beat what I said above. Pretty horrifying stuff for my first week of the job. That is some heavy stuff. I hope you guys dropped his case. I really hope he's behind bars. Oh, I can share a good story. I had a teacher in high school who was a former lawyer. We always asked him why he gave up his practice to start teaching. He finally caved and explained that his last case was the defense of 3 people. Apparently, there had been a 4th. It was 2 couples who, in the act of drunken, drugged-out orgy, decided to kill, partially eat, and dismember one of the women. I guess it seemed like a good idea at the time. As a lawyer, he said it was pretty open and shut. But he had to get his clients the best result possible. And he was exposed to all the horrid details, the pictures, and their reasoning. My teacher had such a far-off look when he explained it that we could see it really got to him. Oh God, there's nothing to say really. Holy hell, you're a poor teacher. And how high do you have to be to start thinking of cannibalism and go, that sounds like a swell idea. I'm on the other side, but I've got a defendant who went to prison for starving 3 adopted children to the point that they needed weeks of hospitalization. Then go out of prison and married a guy with children so that she could start starving them too. Listening to her interview where she attempts to justify what she did to both sets of kids disturbed me more than any of the murder cases I've worked on. My client tried to sell her baby. I only found out during a hearing. Criminal defense lawyer. I can name a few instances where I was just absolutely disgusted with my client. Caveat, these are mostly years ago when I was taking just any old case. I mostly practice white collar and federal now. I won a DUI case because the government messed up on something right before trial was about to begin. My client gives me a hug and completely reeks of alcohol. He has driven to court. I took his keys and called his mother. Client who was accused of molesting a 12-year-old. He was mid-40s at the time, and I had to shut him down real quick when he tried to tell me how the 12-year-old was coming on to him. I represented a woman for a grand theft charge. Left her in my office to get some things copied before she left. After she left, I realized my sunglasses and car keys were stolen. I tracked her down in the lobby and told her I was not going to represent her anymore, and I would call the police if she didn't empty her pockets in front of me and give me my things. I had a client who was released after 25 years in prison for murder, and then the same day he beats up his prospective new landlord. He ended up getting another 10 years. He was unrepentant and laughed about how he hit the guy so hard his eyeball popped out. I had a client who pretended to be a doctor so he could sell steroids. According to the government, he had numerous clients who were made to believe that his steroids would cure their cancer. They paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars and some of them died. I just thought that was pure evil. Had a divorce client, husband and father who disowned his autistic son. Tried to argue that he should get all of his wife's retirement, having not worked for 12 years. Contacted me during the height of Hurricane Sandy. He was in the Bronx and me in Manhattan, saying he wanted to hold his wife in contempt for not paying him that day while the storm slammed New York City. Told me I was making a huge mistake getting married. My wedding date was November 3rd, 4 days after Sandy, saying that I was going to be miserable and regret it. I could go on. But the worst was when several months later, since his divorce was taking a long time, he sent death threat letters to myself and my wife, saying that he had hired a hitman to kill the two of us if his divorce wasn't finalized in 60 days. Called the police and they said he left the premises 1 day earlier. I heard nothing from him until February 2014 when he emailed me saying he needed a winter coat from his wife and could I help get it for him. Ironically, the divorce didn't have to be complete because he killed himself before the judge signed the judgment of divorce. Bottom line is, miserable guy who wanted to spread his misery and crossed the line when he threatened to kill my wife. My mom is a lawyer. This is the story about how she quit being a public defender. When you're a public defender, you don't get to choose your cases. She got assigned a young man who, with the help of his girlfriend, had gotten a kitten from a free to good home ad. They then brought it home and gave it to their dog as a chew toy. I think they also filmed it. So yeah, she said she needed a shower after every meeting with him, canceled her PD contract after the case concluded. Not a lawyer, but my dad is. He has told me the story of why he stopped being a criminal defense lawyer. He got a case with a couple of young Russian guys who were charged with security fraud. My dad worked super hard on the case and got the guys a great deal with some probation, a fine, and some community service. That night, the guys treated my dad to dinner, and on the TV in the bar was a news story about insurance fraud, and one of the guys said, "Hey guys, security fraud is old news. Let's try that next," and pointed at the TV. The night my dad came home to my mom and said, "I can't do criminal defense anymore." Because he realized the people he was defending were truly bad people. Wait, what were they even thinking doing that in front of their lawyer? A lot of years ago, I used to work as a solicitor's representative. Cases go to Crown Court, barrister deals, and I am there for the paperwork, additional stuff with the client, etc. 70-something-year-old man had been in jail for 15 years for an assault on a child. Solicitor and barrister working on getting him released due to him getting clean reports from just about everyone. Guards took him out of jail to a dentist, and as he entered the waiting room and ran straight at them, guards stopped him. 3 weeks later at court, I was the one that sat him down in the room to explain that no, this isn't a hearing to release you. It's so that you can be committed to a mental health secure facility for the rest of your life. He didn't take that well. I shed no tears. Yeah, that old man is going to be in that facility for the rest of his life. Not the client, but my managing partner. The client was a senile 90-year-old man. He wanted to sell land worth a little less than $1 billion to some businessmen. Suffice to say, there were many who wanted to take advantage of the situation. One such person, to my dismay, was our managing partner. The partner wanted to insert a provision that would have effectively funneled about 60% of the proceeds solely to him. You could see how his eyes gleamed at the mere mention of money. The provision got lost in the revisions. I was doing the revisions. I'm no longer part of that scummy firm. I'm a retired correction officer from New York City, Rikers Island. I once had an inmate ask me to look into his case. I had once gotten a 100% innocent guy out of jail when I had just started, and I was considered one of the smarter COs. This guy shot another man to death at an ATM in Midtown, Manhattan during a robbery attempt. It was all caught on videotape. The FBI had computer-enhanced one frame from the video in which the suspect's head was in full profile. His right ear was clearly seen and had a very distinctive characteristic. It was a sort of square at the top and not rounded at all. His crooked, broken nose was all I needed to say to myself, he's guilty. What f***ed my mind up was this scumbag was telling me he had every right to shoot the victim. He looked at himself as a professional robber. If you resisted, then he felt justified to f*** you up. In this case, he shot and killed the ATM customer because he tried to fight back. I couldn't believe how this guy was behaving, smiling when he told me he was a professional. I went and got a book called Inside the Criminal Mind. It helped answer some questions I had about my new line of work. I have since retired from the NYC DOC, and I'm so happy to put all that negative shit behind me. Okay, professional robber? Sounds more like an entitled jerk with a gun. You don't get to shoot people when they don't give you their stuff. You don't get to shoot people if you don't like them. That's all for today, folks. We at AskReddit work really hard to post a video every day. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on an episode.